to our IAMPRO community. I'm so excited today. I can't even contain myself. We have the amazingly talented Callum Scott Howells. He is from you'll know him from probably It's a Sin, but there is lots more to this man's bow. I am a huge fan, so I'm a bit like, very excited to speak to him. So without further ado, I am going to bring him in.
Oh,
I'm like just dancing because I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm so happy I'm here.
Welcome, my darling. How are you today?
Really good, really good. The sun is out, I think. It's just about out. It's not as good as it's been, but it's there, and it's lovely to be here.
Are you one of these people that's affected by the sunlight? They need the sunlight in order to feel good, and you want to go into hibernation in the winter or not?
I think so. I do love the sun. But it's weird, isn't it? Because like when it's like I feel like I love it when it comes, but then after it's been there for a while, I'm like, oh, I want Christmas to come now. And then when Christmas is here and it's been winter for too long, I'm like, I need the sun again. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm just one of those people.
Yeah, so we love the seasons. We love the seasons.
Yeah, we love every season. We love it all.
Every season. My fellow Welshman. I'm gonna start with It's a Sin. Just I'm not gonna gloss over it. I was gonna say just quickly, it won't be that quick. And then we want to get into your craft and all the juicy bits. That's what we do here on IAMPRO. We figure out, what makes you tick as an actor, what advice you have. But let's talk about It's a Sin and getting that job and how that came about. Can you talk us through the whole process? I mean, it was just the most sensational piece of work, and my heart, Callum, just broke. I mean, I could cry just thinking about it when I watched that scene with you in the hospital. It was just like so amazing.
Thank you. No, that's so kind. And for you to say that, that's super lovely. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. But I was at drama school. I went to Royal Welsh, the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. I was there, and basically I got the audition through when I was there in my second year. And Andy Pryor, who cast it, the casting director, he's very open to seeing all kinds of different people. Like you'll see, he really will make sure he sees everyone possible. Like he won't just jump to like a name or someone who you'd assume, the public would assume to play a role. He really will see everyone. And so will Russell, to be fair, but Andy's a real champion of new talent. So he saw me, yeah, exactly. And he saw me for it. I taped for it first, and then I went in and met for it. And it was a lot, it was hard because I'd never done telly. I come from a theatre background, like I guess a lot of us do, because this was there. I was the Amdram circuit. I didn't go to like a stage school really. I just went to school, to state school, and sort of did amateur dramatics because it was there, and it was very much what everyone does in the valleys, isn't it? Like everyone in Wales, and I'm sure in a lot of other places around the UK, that's what they do, because it's there and it's cheap, but it's also so fun because you do it with like your school friends.
Yeah.
So I came from that background. So I'd never done telly before. So then I did the tape, and I think it was at the time.
Have you done a self-tape before, Callum?
I'd done tapes, but they were all awful. They were terrible. They were awful, and I gotta say it because, we're really critical anyway, and we like actors. We're so critical. We watch stuff and we'll watch ourselves back and we'll be like, oh, it's rubbish. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. But mine were honestly truly shocking.
Don't know if I believe you, but I'll take your word for it.
You got to take my word for it. They were really bad. So, and I got to a point when I was at drama school, and I was like, oh, I got to get better than this. How do I do things that are, how do I be like that person on the telly, or this person, or how do I be like Charlie Brooks? And it's like, I watched a lot. I just basically watched a lot of, I watched a lot of telly anyway, but I made sure I kind of absorbed more at this point. And I just started sort of, it was weird because when I was in school, I got along with a lot of teachers, but my acting for screen teacher, he was a great teacher, but he was a director as well. So a lot of the stuff that he was demanding, I didn't feel like I could do. So I started to kind of copy things that I saw people do on the telly, like with their faces and things. And kind of do it. I went through that route, like, of trying to like imitate things, and then I began to feel more comfortable because I was like, oh, if I do that, he does that or she does that, and it was a very strange time for me because I started doing things like that. But anyway, after I went through that phase, the tape came through for It to Sin, and I'd been sort of doing my own things as well, trying to like put myself in front of the camera or on my phone and doing things like that, and I did the tape for It to Sin, and then I got a recall. And that was the first ever recall I got as well from a sort of screen tape.
Right.
You know what
Amazing.
I mean?
Yeah.
So it was. Sorry, go on.
No. I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about. It's like my brain's exploding. I'm like, write notes so you don't forget. Write notes, because I do the same thing as you. Like, so, I remember I got my first job, and it was a children's TV show called Out of Tune, and I just did the whole thing like with my arms because I didn't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have such a self-awareness and confidence in your body to kind of, you know, I was like, oh, what do I do? What do I do with it? And suddenly I just become really self-aware. Like, my arm is here. How did it get there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always now find myself watching and copying people's, like, you know, what they do with their hands in pockets, or, you know, little things like that. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. It's interesting. It really is.
So then you got your recall, and you were in the room with Russell T Davies, with the cast, and with Andy.
So I was with Andy. Russell wasn't there at this point, but it was Russell and it was Phil. Do you know Phil Collinson, producer Phil?
No, I don't.
I think he used to work. I think he's done the rounds for years, but I think he used to work on Corrie, which is obviously, which is, you know, it's he's on the circuit, like. So Phil, Andy, and our director. So it was three of them, but, you know, obviously, like, for me, like, I'd never been in front of a producer, a casting director, a director. It was a big thing for me to be in a room, you know, like, with these type of people. So anyway, there was about, I think we did about 6 or 7 scenes, and they were quite big scenes. They were scenes where Colin's sort of starting to kind of lose his mind, like the dementia's sort of kicking in, and it's, you know, all those really, like, you know, and I think they put those scenes in intentionally to see if I could go there. Do you know what I mean? And see if I could kind of do it. And it's worth saying, you know, at that point, I had no bloody clue how to play those scenes. Like, how, you know, I don't know how to play someone with dementia, you know, and it would be very hard for anyone to, I guess, because if it's not your experience, which it probably in most cases for actors, you know, it's really hard. So, but the notes which came from Peter, the director, and Phil were really good, because they were kind of notes that really aided the performance. They were like, you know, let's just play a line for line. And that's actually then what happened in the show, because it's, you know, they broke it down and they were like, let's just, because I was always like thinking about the overall as opposed to like the beats and just playing each moment as it is. And it was really simple then how it was directed, because they were just like, let's just treat every line as its own moment and then go from there. And that really helped. But even in the room at that point, it's worth saying that they were so good with notes and working with me.
Isn't it amazing when you get a director who gives you a good note, just whispers something in your ear, or like it just enhances. And I go, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? And it makes you go to different places. It's so important. It's so brilliant. I just absolutely buzz off of that. What is it? Okay, don't know where to go next. I do know where to go. How did your performance in that casting compare to what we saw on screen?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because and going off what you just said about an amazing note and amazing director, is like going from that room and like my idea of the character in that room, it was so different in the end to what really was the result. Because at the time when I read the script, you know, Russell describes Colin as like owlish and innocent, and it's really easy at points like that to just assume that that's all Colin is. Colin is just sort of this innocent boy who is moving to London, and he's just all seeing and all this kind of stuff. But he's not that, really, because Colin throughout the whole show is hiding a secret. He has got an edge, as in a way, to him. And Peter really helped me find that in the end. So he helped me find like the colouring. So like, I think at the start I very much had one idea of him, but by the end, Peter made me see every kind of color. Do you know what I mean? Because of like you said, because of those notes, because of those things where he'd go like, today he's like this. He's just, he's bubbly today. And that really helps because then he doesn't just become a one-dimensional character. He has all these different dimensions. And I think I'm like you really. I love working with a director and I love those notes because they help massively.
I need them.
Definitely.
How much of yourself do you think you bring to a character?
I think I bring a lot of myself. I try to, but then I've something recently I've been thinking about like we bring ourselves a lot to characters, I think, but also like there's no denying that we're just not that character as well. I think it's like I think of it like a cocktail. It's like you got to put a bit of this in, but you've also got to add a bit of mint and a bit of this and a bit of that. And I think, like going back to what I said earlier about like when I was copying stuff with people's faces and these things, like I think we've got to put ourselves in, but we've also got to, it's a medium, you know what I mean? And like, there's a difference between screen and theatre. And I think it's always about cheating things to whatever the style of the piece is. So like, I've just done a football film now, and like the difference between that and It's a Sin and, sort of the character I play Nathan in this to Colin is like huge, because Nathan's this kind of, he's this really like sort of, he is really bubbly and really, he's just a different sort of energy. And I think, Nathan probably is closer to me than Colin was. Colin, I really had to kind of rein it in a lot more because I'm quite like sort of, I feel like I'm a bit like bubbly, but Colin was that, but also he had like a stillness to him as well. So
yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but.
No. Listen, this is just in conversation with, we'll digress. We'll go off on all different tangents. I'm not very capable of staying on one track because I just,
Same.
I get so caught up when you're saying, like, oh yeah, now I want to know about that.
It's ADHD, that's what it is. I'm like literally just like off on every tangent.
Yeah. So we've got these two characters. Let's talk about these. So one's a film and one's a series. So were they very different ways of working for each of these jobs?
Yeah, really different. I like, well, one, they couldn't be any more different, I guess, in terms of what the subject matter. Like one is about the Homeless World Cup, and we were shooting these big sort of football games and loads of action, whereas It's a Sin was quite, I think it had some sort of action-y things in it, like the dance scenes and all this kind of stuff. But it was quite, other than on the whole, it was quite a domestic show. It was, it was very, it was a lot of things happening in rooms, and it felt very intimate. So to go from shooting something like that, which was always kind of, being in rooms with the Pink Palace guys and like talking, to like being on a football pitch, shouting to another person, being in it, kicking a ball, like having all these extra things to think about, very, very different. But then also like, the different things which comes to making a film to a series is,
the technical
was another challenge. Yeah. And different things happening with the cameras and I gotta say, I think we shot more for the film. We shot, there was a lot more coverage, I think, in the end, which is, I don't, it's my first film, so I don't know if that's common or uncommon.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know more than me, Charlie, but I think it was, if it was, we just shot so much because we were also in Rome, and I think they wanted to utilize all the space and all the kind of environment we were in.
Unfortunately, I don't have that much experience of film just yet, Callum. So I don't know that much.
You bloody will. Flip it.
I will. In terms of building a character, is that something, I know with It's a Sin you said that there was so much more that came from working with the director. Is it something that generally you think about, whether it's a physicality? Do you often change that? And do you bring that to a self-tape? I don't know if you have to self-tape or audition anymore.
Oh, definitely. I think we all do, don't we, really? I think I don't think that ever stops. I was speaking to like a really like really super successful actor the other day, and he self-tapes still. I think and I'm glad. That's a lovely thing to hear, isn't it? As well, like when you speak to people who are at the top of their game, like they still. Well, actually, I read something today. I don't know how true this is, but it was like this. It was like on Twitter, and it was like Harry Styles had recently auditioned to play Elvis. And you're like, if Harry Styles is auditioning for stuff, flipping heck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. It is kind of comforting, isn't it? They've got to see if you can do the job.
Completely, definitely, yeah.
So do you have an idea of who the character is in that self-tape that we all have to do?
Yeah, I think I have this. When I read it, so when the script comes in and I read it, and like I feel like you get a real sense of it, and you get like a sense of what the character is, and you see the scenes, and you can be like, oh, you kind of. I think when I read stuff, I like see it in my head. I'd be like, oh, yeah, it probably will look like that, and blah blah blah. And then I think I have a sense of it, but then I genuinely think you don't learn everything about that character until you're like doing the whole journey, because I feel like you just learn things every day, don't you? Like when you're on set and you're doing a scene, like you might. I found myself learning things about Colin even in the middle of a scene, like even whilst filming it, like being like, oh my gosh, that line, it means that, and it's connected to that, and you know what I mean? It's like I feel like whatever myths we get taught along the way of being like, you need to know everything by the first day you're on set. I just think that can't be true, because I don't feel like we ever stop learning about a character. I mean, for you, Charlie, do you still feel like you learn things about you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, definitely. For me, especially the evolution of a character when I'm playing her now sort of 8 years on from before. I think as human beings, sometimes I still surprise myself with a reaction like, oh, either I handled that well, I've surprised myself there, or shit, why did I respond in that? Do you know what I mean? There's something that about what a line or a sentence another person is delivering to you. There could be a word or something that triggers a response that is unexpected. I think to still have that as an actor is really important, because I think that's what you mean by instinctive and living in the moment. It's always discovering, always, because we are as human beings as well.
Yeah, completely, exactly. It's so true. Yeah, and exactly that thing of someone could do something which triggers something completely and you're not expecting it unexpectedly, and I think that's another thing of like who your scene partner is, or who the other character in the scene is. Like that's always so, and that's the thing. That's another difference between a self-tape and then to be doing the role. It's like, as in on set or on stage or whatever, is that a self-tape is quite a restricted medium in the sense that like you might sometimes not even have someone in the room. You might have someone on Zoom reading in for you, because you might not be in a situation where you're able to have someone in the room. Particularly like look at COVID or whatever. I did so many bloody self-tapes with people on Zoom, and that's never going to be the same, is it? Like, because more often than not, like if they're on the laptop, you won't even be able to look at them. You're probably gonna have to just look at the wall or something.
Yeah.
I think it's always that thing of, don't ever think that like, and I think casting directors must know this, surely, that the self-tape is never going to be like the finished product. It's a sense of the character, and it's an idea of the character, but I don't think it's ever going to be the finished article as such.
Yeah, no. No, we've had some casting directors on actually, and I think they're just looking for a flavor. And so you said you did loads of self-tapes in lockdown. That must have meant a bit of rejection. How do you deal with rejection, Callum Howells?
Right.
And are there any jobs that you've seen on TV that you've been up for and didn't get?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's a thing, isn't it? When you and also announcements and things that just you see it. It's very much in the public, isn't it? This industry, so it's out in the open. You'll see it. Obviously, you'll know you haven't had the role, but I hope more often than not before the announcement's been made or before the show has obviously been aired. And that it's a proper thing, isn't it? But what I will say, I think I'm a person who, at the when I first get the rejection, or when my agent calls me up, they'd say, "Oh, it's not going any further." I think it's always that thing of like, "Oh, I'm sad," and I sort of take it in, and it's a hit. And I think that normally, when I was young, whatever, I know I'm not bloody old, but I think when I was like sort of late teenage years, like whenever I'd not get something, I'd be like, it'd be for weeks, sometimes probably months, I'd be like, oh, I'd be gutted. But now I have this, I have a thing where I just go, I try to just compartmentalize and go, right, it's not happening. So it wasn't meant to be. So just try and leave it. And, I try, but sometimes it does linger on, and the feeling doesn't, because depending on where I'm at mentally and physically, like it can be hard to take. But I try my best to be like that. The person who got it deserved it, and whenever that's happened, whenever I've seen the character or being portrayed on the telly or in the theater or wherever, you go like, oh my gosh, they're just perfect for it. Of course they got it. You know what I mean? So I think it's not resenting.
You don't go, I could have done that so much better than them.
Oh, of course. No, I mean, it's such a weird.
I hear you.
It's such a weird. It's weird. It's always weird, isn't it? Because you go like, I would have loved to have done it. I would have loved to have done that with him. But then, I think I've always been in a situation where people have got it and I've gone, oh, they're amazing, Yeah, and I think that's and sometimes they're friends.
Yeah. Yes. I know.
And you have to be happy.
I know, you really do. I think there's a deep, trust that needs to happen, that what is for us won't go by us, and everything happens for a reason. How do you, I suppose, especially in light of the success and how huge It's a Sin was, and whether there was something you did before the success, like look after your mental health, and suddenly having that attention, Callum, how has that impacted your life? And are you okay? How are you managing it? Because it's massive.
Yeah. Oh, it was, it was really hard. Like it was when the show, I'm not really one to kind of, I don't sort of enjoy, I'm quite a private person, I guess. I enjoy sort of being in the house with my dog, and just sort of I'm quite like I'm quite that simple, like I'm quite simple like that. I enjoy like
boy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think when It's a Sin came out, it was a big shift, and it was something that was happening, and we all did enjoy it. It was really, luckily, everything was positive really, and people were lovely. But it came with challenges, and I just think it was a thing of protecting people around me, and sort of also them protecting me, and sort of just really leaning in on family and close friends, and just allowing myself to kind of have days where if it was, because I think probably the biggest thing we dealt with It's a Sin was it happening and then it ending. The show very much came and then went. And I think that's a big thing to deal with, is that dealing with something that was really successful and then having to then go back to sort of being on the grind, and then auditioning and not losing sight of like the bigger picture of like, actually, like, it's a career. It's not, It's a Sin was a show, and we were so grateful for it. But we also then had to kind of move on, I guess. We had to kind of look at what was next, and that was the hardest thing, kind of letting go of it.
I have no doubt that there are so many exciting things for you in Callum Howells.
Well, fingers crossed. Who bloody knows? Maybe not. Maybe I'm washed up after this, Charlie. Maybe I'll have to retire early.
Oh, babes, I can't see that happening. Okay, we're going to do a couple more actory questions, if that's all right with you.
Of course.
Your process, you've got the job from getting the script. I have to read a script 4 times because there's so much I miss before I even understand the journey. And, I have to really reread, otherwise, and know where I am, where I'm going. What is your process when you get a script for a job? Talk us through it.
So I think, first of all, I'll probably be like you. I'll read it a good few times, not sort of back to back. Like, I think I'll read it because I always find reading something quite hard because I have to, I'm same with like reading books. I really kind of make sure I focus on it, and that's a lot of energy for me to kind of do because I'm quite like, I like to be on the move and I like to listen to things, and that's more probably how I naturally learn. So when I read, it's a proper task. So I'll read it and then I'll leave it like probably a week, and then I'll read it again, and then I have this thing where if it's filming, I'll basically every shoot day that I'm on, the night before, I'll read the whole thing up until the scene that we're filming.
Yep.
So I'll go like, okay, this and this has happened, but I don't know, the character doesn't know that all that's gonna come. So I make sure then, because I learned on my last job very much so that, it was very much a process of not playing the end, like always playing the moment and just the knowledge up until this time in the movie. So, it was that's what I made sure I did then for the rest of the job. And I think that I can't see myself ever shaking that off now, because I found it such a massive help to kind of just do that and not be aware of, make sure that when I'm playing the scene, not being aware of the kind of end.
Yeah, no, that's really important. I mean, one of my questions was going to be, what is your top secret to being a good actor?
I don't think I know what that is. I don't think I have a bloody. I mean, yeah, no, it's a good question, but also like a super hard one, because I'm like, this isn't from me, but I'm massive fans of so many actors, and I listen to what they say, but I think. So Bill Nye is in the film, and he's like he's a really good friend of mine now, because he's also really there for me, and he's been a really good like sort of friend in a way. And he said once, like, this is more like a stage thing, I guess, but he said something like, when you're on stage, just as soon as you can, just lift your hands above your head, because as soon as you've done that, it's like you're there and you're in, and you're in the car, and now that's such a great thing, because I find, and sometimes now, even when I'm doing something in front of the camera, like I'll just go, and then I feel like I'm in it. Do you know what I mean? It's such a cheat, but it's like, it's this little thing that kind of helps me just be in it. And it was such a great note, but also just such a random one.
I do this thing where I spin around, like outside the door just before I do a take. I'll do a little spin, because it kind of just makes me feel, it keeps me on my toes, it keeps me in the present, and makes me feel momentarily alive.
Yeah.
So then you go and you're in your body, you're like, okay, focus in. So it's all amazing. Those little tricks, I think, that seem like mental are really important.
Yeah. But they're so important, yeah. And like the probably sort of the average person would just be like, "What the hell? What are you bloody doing?"
I know, yeah. People walk by like,
but it's so good. It's such a good thing.
Yeah. I did see, after a little bit of Google research, a singing competition that you'd entered.
Oh yeah.
Am I allowed to talk about that or not?
Of course you can. Yeah.
This is all about different routes into the industry, right? And everyone has a different pathway in.
Yeah.
So that was part of your journey. And what was it? Tell us about it. You're clearly a singer, and I hope I get to see you sing one day.
Well, it was so when I was young, so it's my mother really. My mother knew I wanted to be an actor. She knew I wanted to perform in a way. So she was always looking for things online that was like there and I could apply for. So when I was 13, I did a documentary. And also my mother isn't like a pushy, stagey mother. She just knew, she identified when I was young that I really wanted to do it. And I went through like so many different phases. I wanted to be a football player, and she backed that. Then I wanted to do karate, and she even backed that at one point. I don't know what the hell she was thinking, but but then whatever I wanted to do, my mother always supported me, which I'm super grateful for. And she's an amazing person for me to have there. But anyway, so she looked at these things, and then anyway, I applied for it, and I auditioned for it, and it was Gary Barlow's search for like the band or something.
Okay, I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was called Let It Shine. So I auditioned for it, and then I did like, for these shows, you do like rounds of auditions before you even get on the telly. So I did like 4 rounds going back and forth to London, and then I got the one of the telly slots to audition for Gary Barlow and the panel, and I did that, and it was I tell you what, it was an experience. It was a bloody experience, and it was terrifying. Like, being in the studio audience, like singing a song, and then Graham Norton comes on, and you have to like get through, and it was so crazy.
How did you manage your nerves? Nerves is a big one. I speak a lot about on this platform, but fear and vulnerability and owning that shit. How did you deal with the nerves in that situation and at the side of a stage? Because you've done some theatre before It's a Sin, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think you know what, I have no secret, and I have no kind of way of kind of explaining it, because as soon as I came off for that audition, I was sick because I was so nervous before, and I remember like I hadn't eaten before because I was so nervous, and so I came off and I just went straight to the it's a bit too much information, but I just went to the toilet and just was sick because I think I was just so nervous, and it completely like sort of took over. And I have the same with stage. Like, I think theatre is a different beast, isn't it? It's like a different sort of thing, and it's so much more immediate. I find theatre actors like who do it all on the reg incredible, because it's muscularly and physically and sort of nerves wise, they must be just sort of like a brick wall. They must be just fierce, and I think they're amazing, and that's why I'm going to the theatre tonight. I'm seeing Cock.
What are you saying? Cock?
Yeah.
I really want to go and see that. I mean, I'm
excited.
There's so much good stuff on at the moment. So much good stuff.
Well, I saw you the other day after you went to the theatre.
That was one of the best shows, top 3 performances. Denise Goffin, People, Places, Things. That show, I don't want to get the title wrong. It's such a long title. It's called For Black Boys Who, oh my gosh, it's such a long title. So please, I hope that you're not remembering it in this moment. But it was on at the Royal Court, and it was phenomenal. I will put some things in our IAMPRO community for those of you watching it about that play, because I think it's going to transfer. It's just
I'm sure. Yeah. Things.
Yeah, so good. So when I watched theatre, because I mean I've done a fair bit, and I get so terrified at the side of the stage. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? I'm never doing it again, ever. And then you get out there, and after that, just that initial, it's like the most freeing, meditative, almost kind of amazing experience. But the nerves, even when I'm watching, I can feel the anxiety for people. It's like in my chest. I'm like, what's going to happen? It's so thrilling, isn't it?
Oh, completely. It's it's exact, and the buzz from reactions from the audience, and like never ignoring that it's a live medium, and like that people are just gonna just do things that are gonna be unexpected, or things on every night. Things will be different, and I think that's so cool, isn't it? That's
especially when it gets under your skin and you're super comfortable with it, and then you can start like batting it around. And it's really fun. Okay, so just quickly before we end, because we've gone over time only a little bit, that's all right. Royal College, when you were at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, you said you got the self-tape in for It's a Sin in year 2. Does that mean you didn't do year 3?
So I didn't do half of year 3. Well, what I thought at the time was going to be half, but because of COVID, my year ended earlier anyway. Because in my 3rd year, I was like the COVID year, so we had to finish super early. So I went back and I filmed It to Sin for the first 6 months of the year, and then I went back and did a play, and then I rehearsed then another play, and then we didn't get to perform it, basically. So which was really sad, and it was sad that I didn't get to see my year again, really. But I'm seeing them for the first time next week because my graduation is next week after it's been 2 years since I graduated, and my graduation is finally happening, which is crazy. Mental.
And what was your experience of that drama school particularly like? Was it an enjoyable one?
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. It's an amazing school, Royal Welsh. I'm really biased, obviously, because I went there, but it's a great school. The teachers are so supportive. Well, they're supportive of me. And I had a great time. I'm so grateful for my training because I think that before I went there, I probably did. I don't think I did know how to act really, Charlie. I think I was making shapes before I went to drama school, and then drama school helped me sort of find the truth behind those shapes. Do you know what I mean? It really helped me sort of know what I was doing and why I was doing it. And I think that's what I'm super grateful for drama school. It was great for me. But I also know that some people don't need to go there. Some people, get enough of a buzz from going to like Amdram or going to stage school when they're young. And I think I respect everyone's journey, no matter what it is. Like I got so many friends one of my best friends, she never went to drama school. She went to like a school, but it was never full time. And I think that's what she experienced was just as valuable as what I experienced in going for full time training. So yeah, I think do whatever your sort of heart kind of desires. I think because nothing will be wrong in the end. Everything's an experience, and you'll learn from it all, I think.
And what advice do you have for, let's say, Callum's younger self, your 14-year-old self? What if you could go back and say something to yourself now? What would it be?
I think it would be just like enjoy every aspect of like the ride, like enjoy the low, because the lows are going to be so low, but the highs are going to be super high. And I think just trust that the next thing will come. You just gotta just always believe in like that you're not gonna dry up and you're not gonna just be boring, ever be boring. Something will always come, and you'll always everything is an experience. Like I just said, really, just it's a roller coaster, isn't it? Like you're gonna go, you're gonna have such great times, but also sometimes they're gonna be really shit. And I just think it's about just enjoying it all, finding a way to enjoy it all, even if you don't, but just try.
Yeah. Hold on tight and then know when to put your arms in the air, isn't it?
Yeah! It's so
true. This chat has just filled my heart with joy, honestly.
You're amazing.
So lucky to have you. Thank you so much
for having me. No, it's been lovely. Thank you so much, Charlie.
And look how clever I'm going to be with my outro now. So we're going to say thank you for IAMPRO. We love you.
Thank you, IAMPRO.
Look out for everything Callum's got coming up because it's very exciting.
Oh.
Bye.
Bye.